So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, so very quickly, so here I've just got a multi-entity report, that I'm just sharing here. But as I'm just basically just want to just share before I maybe do, jump into some details here. So we're an Excel-based add-in, right? So I think just in terms of our commitment over the past, I'm going to say 20 years, has always been to Excel. Excel, in the accounting space and analysis space is still the most flexible platform to do any type of I'll show you actuals reporting, but then also using those numbers in various ways to try and do additional calculations, analysis, and I'm going to say ad hoc type of reporting. As I'm saying, is as soon as one gets into the financial analysis space, the customers or customer scenarios aren't always exactly the same. And so Excel, because I'm saying invariably accountants, right, there's a billion users of Excel out there. Everyone has got Excel. It's just so flexible from a reporting perspective. So what we do is we operate, just as an Excel add-in, and how one would install it is just by going to the add-ins over here, and then you essentially just start and you log in. I'm not going to go through the login process over here, and I can but let me quickly just show that just for 30 seconds here. Is that, here we're connecting to QuickBooks Online. So we've got a direct connection to QuickBooks Online. I'll just quickly sign on again here. And so as we mentioned, we are, QuickBooks Intuit partner, and also a Microsoft partner. But so here I'm just selecting which company, just so I want to log on to. And then, so now we've created a direct connection between, let's say, Excel. My Excel here is on my desktop, but it could be Excel in the cloud as well. Obviously, it's Microsoft Excel 365. Its files are shared on OneDrive. And so the files can also be accessed, right, by anyone. And but now I've got, just Excel Live, just in a live connection to QuickBooks Online. This is a multi-entity report, what we're having a look at here. And this is a bit of a dashboard. I'm just going to close this task pane to the right-hand side. And so this is a multi-entity report, and that we can use for multi-entity reporting or some consolidations. And to my left-hand side here, I've just got Excel grouping where I can open up and see various lines. And but yeah, so what I'm going to do here, essentially is just so what we have, and I'm just going to open up, just one of these lines over here, the groupings here. And what we can see there immediately, I had a refresh. I've got my refresh button on. But so what we have is a formula-based approach. So in each of these cells with our software, we build and populate a formula which makes use of cell referencing. So just referencing other cells in this sheet or in another, sheet to populate this formula, which when executed passes a query over to QuickBooks Online and gets us a fresh set of data. So as we can see in this formula over here, I'm referencing just this date parameter over here. Here's where it's getting my dates from. So if I had to just go and change this date, and as an example, I've got last year in here. I'm just going to go and change that to this year. So there we can see I just changed the date there to this year. Then we can see, just all my values. Yeah, I've got some tables, some, just some tiles, performance tiles, updated over here, gross margin, operating margin, updated. And then I can see, just some graphs and, everything updated over here as well. Let's maybe just go back. So just to show you again, I'm just going to put in that in last year again. And, there we can see the values, just updating. And so in this example over here, if I just open up the various values here, I can actually just open up to the lowest level, which is making use of standard Excel summarization, just to collapse line items. But the fundamental principle is just this, bringing in this formula, which then enables us to refresh and pull in new values from QBO. The beauty of this, as opposed to any, is essentially that you can have your own template, right? So this is our product, right? Product branding, but I can build up this template here, or build up this report. And when I pull in new data, all of my just whatever changes I made and customize, but whatever branding I put in here, it all remains intact. It's not overwritten. Just my formatting, just my numbers, everything essentially just remains intact as well. So this is an example just from a multi-entity reporting perspective, where I can actually report on multiple entities, while, being simultaneously connected. Here I'm just doing 3, but it's essentially unlimited, in terms of the number of entities that you can report on.
And are you finding that there's a particular niche or a particular market that gravitates towards a solution like this?
Yeah, so essentially, in terms of, as an example, multi-entity reporting, there's franchises, so where there's franchise reporting, they very much want to see, just in terms of their entities brought together, in the group. That's, sometimes also just with property management companies, they basically want to see that as well. Property management companies, another big item as well, is, for example, just I'm going to show here, maybe just a trend report as well. So here is also where, one is able to just do a trend. So what I've got here when we start looking at, so some of the analysis is, so here I've got a 12-month trend report and, for a specific company. And so I've just built this, we've got this chart and we've got some start and end dates, and I can say for a specific period, right? So there I'm basically saying, let's say for the year 2022, I want to see what my trends are for total income. So my blue line is total income. I've got total expenses here and then a gross margin. And then I start looking at my moving average, right, just in terms of what my trends are. So, so we're very much able to do. And it, as I mentioned, is that here, if I change this maybe just for the 2023 here, right, then we'll see, just all our data essentially refresh as well. And so in this report, I maybe have it annualized, but it can actually go across different periods as well. And yeah, so here's essentially my whole income statement. But I've, just summarized these numbers, just in terms of some of my most critical KPIs, revenue, expenses, and then, to see where my gross margin's going. And then I've got an 8 months, just moving average that it's just showing me as well, where am I going? So trend report is very much applicable, can be used in various instances, for various businesses. I think that always provides, a good indication there. So essentially that's sort of fairly industry agnostic.
So do I need to be an Excel genius to use a tool like this?
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to just briefly want to share with you now is just, so it's just very quickly how to import, right, or build a template that is specific to your chart of accounts, say to individuals' chart of accounts. And so here as an example, I want to say no, right, is that it just makes use of standard Excel referencing. And so obviously we had some graphs and so on in the previous one, but let me just quickly bring in, I'm going to build a template using, say, this company, Stock Industries chart of accounts, and I'm going to build a template report using, just the P&L in QuickBooks as an example. And so here we can see once again, so there we can see just that formula that we populate, at the cell level, and it makes use of the cell referencing to populate, say, the parameters that we need in order to go and find a new balance, right? But now, and we'll say from an Excel perspective, right, we all know how to copy and paste, right? So here, all I'm doing here is just copying and pasting. So now I've created a second column, and then let's say this is, let's maybe change that to last year, right? So I'm just going to put in that to last year and press enter, and you can see all those cells refreshing over here. I'm going to change this one. Let's put in a variance column over here, right? So variance. And now all I'm going to do here is, right, so let's say the, current year less last year, right? And I'm just double click, create that. My formatting, if I want all of that to be consistent, right, I just use standard Excel formatting. And let's just say I want to change this now to this year. And what we can immediately see, right, I mean, then your variance column is updated as well, right? And so normal Excel referencing. And so now, we can also, for example, just pull in budgets as well. Let's maybe just go and pull in a budget value as well. So just copy paste. And instead of Excel actuals over there, all that I go and do is I pull in budget values, right? And so actual budget comparisons, I can have multiple columns. I can compare year on year. I can put in columns at the row level. What I can also do as an example, I can also put different calculations at the bottom here as well. Like here I can insert, in this row, calculation. And I can do any type of percentage or margin calculation down here as well. For example, there, right? And I can just maybe use, standard Excel as a percentage, bring that across over there. And then when I refresh any values, so when I press this refresh button over here, this would, for example, then go and refresh all my calculations for me. So what I might have had over here is maybe just this year to last month, right? So this would then always, we're in March now, but that would always pull in all my values up until the end of February. So I almost have, cumulative results up until my prior period. And so as I mentioned, just in terms of a formatting perspective, I've refreshed values, but all my formatting that I've done has remained consistent. Which is just always what we as practitioners, what we would struggle with. And then if I wanted to go and see, right, why is there such a big variance, right, between numbers? I've also got this drill down function. And when I click this drill down function, that then where, clicks down and it passes another query over to QBO and it drills down and finds me all the values over here. And so there we can see, right, so you're at the bottom, that was my value 504, but now I can go and use, and analyze this. Because it's Excel, I can build pivot tables, everything else off of it. And, but there we can see, so that was the 504 value, that I just drilled down on. So it really provides a very flexible scenario. And then, I think from a analysis perspective, template perspective, there's various use cases, as I mentioned, projects. You can report on projects, you can report profitability by customer, we can do by classes, so for the property industry. We can do work reporting as well, so your work in progress reporting, for construction. So there's a whole number of, allocations, so anywhere where I want to say you need to do, some allocations or calculations. And, if you're ever finding yourself exporting to Excel, right, I think that's essentially and having to repaste or redo data in Excel, that's the process that we very much eliminate.
Right. So if I'm a practitioner and I'm now I'm going to talk outside of my true knowledge base here, so bear with me. If I'm in my instance of QBO or in QBO accountant, am I able to connect my various accounts here, or do I need to be in the client instance?
So no, you're absolutely. So no, we only work with QBO, QuickBooks Online. We do not work with a desktop version. But you only we only work with QBO.
Or what about through the QuickBooks Online accountant side?
Yeah, so it's like, so with an accountant, for a practitioner who wants to use it for his clients, he would basically have a login over here, and then he'd be able to connect, just his various clients as well, in the same way. So he'd be able to gain access, if he's got access via the front end, to QBO, to his clients. I mean, this is essentially, this is the same way that he would access, he accesses the same way here as he would, just accessing via the browser, so this is just where it is that real-time connectivity to QuickBooks Online. There's no middleware, there's no database in between. You are fundamentally, connected directly, to your customer's instance.
Okay. And so from an onboarding perspective, when a client or an accounting professional signs up with you guys, clearly this is a pretty powerful tool just from what you've shown here. What's that learning curve look like typically?
Yeah, typically the most difficult thing practitioners, basically learn is the cell referencing. It's just in terms of how to populate this formula, right? Or how just to say get the cell referencing. This formula can actually be inserted into existing sheets as well. We don't need to import a specific report as a starting point. So that is the most difficult thing, right? It's just doing a bit of cell referencing. So that's the one part, but we've also got a YouTube channel as well. We do, onboarding training. We've got a 14-day trial. But even during that time, invariably there's 2 or 3 use cases that the practitioner specifically wants to try and solve. So we'll do that during the trial process. But almost after that, then, they're good to go, or, they actually use our YouTube channel to, find different videos and have a look and different use cases. Invariably, what happens is that, folks come with maybe 1 or 2 use cases, and then later on they expand it, right? Because, geez, I can use it for this, and I can use it for this, and I can use it for this. So that's then where, I think we just see it, the growth really start expanding.
Yeah, and certainly is very flexible. So you've got here's my bucket of templates, but each of those I can expand out as I see fit, right? And then do you ever have templates that get shared? Like if a user developed a template and sent it back to you guys, I mean, is that shareware? I don't know what you really would call that from your perspective, but
no, we're moving in that direction. But for the most part, what we do find is that, from a template perspective, we're looking at constantly expanding our template import process. And so the big thing is that, from a dashboarding as well, is that, you're importing and building this template that is immediately specific to your chart of accounts, because I think everyone sort of structures their accounts differently. And so then, that just accelerates the whole, I want to say, adjusting the report, or the template to your specific chart of accounts, that you've got. So we've seen that as a very efficient way. And so it's not that, we actually look, we incorporate those best practice templates, directly into the product, so that, just via this import process, that you're immediately, that's available to you.
right. Well, thanks for sharing that. So anything else that you wanted to show just while we've got the solution up?
Yeah, I think just maybe one thing is just, as we were talking, I previously mentioned, just from a forecasting perspective, just in using, as for a practitioner, right? I mean, I think obviously we're always intent on analyzing historical results, but I think where organizations, really, I want to say for all of us, right? But what we need to do is sort of go to the uncomfortable space of trying to look at the future, and trying to do a bit of a prediction about the future. And that's where there's always a bit of value, right? Because it's all about, as I mentioned, we all have limited resources. So how do we try and direct our resources? And so this is just a, let's say, a basic example, and is where let's say this use case is where, this company, let's just say we've got 6 months worth of actuals, so let's just say in this time period, we have 6 months, 7 months worth of actuals up until July, right? So basically this column up until July that we can see actuals, we're pulling in actuals data, but then I'm pulling in here my budget values, for the remaining, sort of 5 months. And then this gives me, just a revised forecast, which I'm then comparing to my full year budget. And so, invariably just a basic thing like this is where it just helps then, okay, but how far are we, if we targeting making X dollars, by the end of this year, how are we progressing based on a combination of actuals and budgets to build a new revised forecast? This type of thing can take, incredibly long time, I think, to do that. Whereas here, now, if, for example, August comes, if I want August actuals, all that I do is I just drag my actuals over there. Now I'm populating, say this column with all actuals. Now I've got 8 months worth of actuals, say 4 months worth of budget, builds up a new revised forecast. I compare it to full year budget, so this is an example, just where it's, just very easy, to compare, build a forecast. And then maybe just another thing I can very quickly just show as well, is then, in terms of building, just a budget as well, is just to be able to, in terms of, when we build budgets as well, invariably we want to have uplift factors per, let's say, per account. And, what we can also do with this formula is just do a combination of bringing in actuals, but then using standard Excel, say, formulas to increase whatever actuals we, bring up, whatever actuals we brought in. And so in this example here for this account, I'm just looking to increase my my monthly amount of, I'm building a new budget for my next year, but I'm, using current year actuals, and then to have an uplift factor. Let's just say here I'm just going to make a silly number over there, 30%. And now for each one of these cells, I'm increasing that by 30% as an example. And so this then also helps from a phasing perspective, that, I'm phasing basically on increasing my total value by 30%, but my phasing is correct per period, which invariably smaller companies, unless you're using really sophisticated sort of more FP&A type of software, right? It's actually quite difficult to do. But, using our software now, you're able to just increase or build a new budget or a new forecast using just Excel formulas, combining it with your actual or budget data from QBO.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is any other highlights that you want to point out?
Yep. No, I think it's, I think just in terms of, I think just maybe in terms of, closing statements, I think it's using this flexibility of, with our formula, bringing in actuals for any of those dimensions, classes, projects, departments, locations out of QBO, bringing it into Excel, then using Excel's native flexibility, from a product reporting perspective, the graphing and the charting, and then, as we can see just here, this is also native to Excel, just the grouping functions, being able to build reports. It just really provides a very flexible environment where you can also drill down to details, right? And where if you're trying to understand numbers better, and even maybe trying to do a scenario, adding a different location or a new franchise, it makes that understanding of your actual results, and then also in terms of forecasting maybe possible scenarios, just a lot easier. And I think for practitioners, right, I think where time is just so important, and there's always a crunch for time. So I think if there's repetitive tasks that one is doing, right, is just to eliminate that, because, your client, I don't know, maybe he's still paying for that, right, but that's not where the value is. And I think just, there's always a direct proportion to how much value, we provide, to our customers in terms of what we can actually charge them. And so I think probably just for practitioners there is like, just here it's the values in providing guidance as to what the organization should be doing. And so this tool, just really facilitates that process.
So if I was a practitioner and saw this and thought, you know what, I need to get my hands into this and really understand the full power of it, because I mean, you shared a lot, but I'm sure that we just scratched the surface. But what's the recommended kind of step? I mean, I wouldn't think I would come in and just dump all my clients in and then start keying data or
No,
manipulating data.
yeah. All right. No, absolutely. So I think probably just I think that, so one is maybe just setting up a quick demo, I think with us, but I think it won't, we'll probably be able to answer some specific use case questions. Just in terms of us, so we do the free trial, so here, I mean, essentially there's a trial, and it's just to come here, get started. So that's just where you create a subscription. So that is essentially, just here, I mean, it's to create a subscription, a 14-day trial subscription. And I mean, basically, it's that. And then the second step is just here, in Excel, is to go to, this is to the App Store, here where you can actually go to, this is the Excel add-in office. There's flash reports. You just click add, right? And then that essentially adds this. And then step 3, you click start, log in, right? And you log on, and and you can import and refresh some balances, just from whatever QuickBooks entity you like. And so you schedule a meet with us. We can also take you through the use cases and help you get run up. But I mean, essentially is that I've maybe got a slide over here. I mean, quite honestly, as you can see here, just a quick click here, is that, you're actually up and running in less than 10 minutes, right? So, I mean, I think you can subscribe and that takes 2 minutes. The installation is directly from, the Microsoft App Source store. You install it, and then, that report that I imported, you can do that. So it's even maybe less than 5 minutes, right? And you can be building, copying, and pasting exactly the way I did.
And and you said you have resources are they on YouTube, or do I get to those resources like training resources via the website, or what's the best way to find that?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think so. If, basically going into, so this is just our YouTube store or YouTube channel. And so there's a whole number, I'll say 2 to 3 minute videos. During the trial process, we very much also, share that as well. But yeah, so that just very much is, some specific use case videos, just of what folks will, different ways that they can actually use the product.